Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the AFC House. Today, we witness the next chapter in Asian women's football unfold as teams embark on their journey towards continental glory. In just a short while, the battle lines will be drawn for the 34 teams seeking to clinch one of the 8 coveted spots to join host Australia and the top 3 finishers from the AFC Women's Asian Cup India 2022, namely China PR, Korea Republic and Japan at the 2026 Continental Showpiece. I'm Alexandria Aloysius, and it's my pleasure to be your MC for the official draw ceremony of the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers. Now, before we set the stage for the draw, let's take a moment to relive some of the unforgettable moments that have defined this prestigious competition and inspired the journey ahead. That surely brings back some great memories, to which I'm certain the 2026 edition will add plenty more. Now, it is almost time for the draw ceremony to begin, but before we commence, let's turn our attention to the draw mechanism to ensure we're all familiar with how the process will work.
AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers draw mechanism. Entries. The following 34 teams will participate in the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers as listed below in alphabetical order. Competition format. The AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers will consist of one round. 34 participating teams will be divided into 8 groups, with each group to be played in a centralized league format. Depending on the number of teams in each group, the following match sequence shall apply. The numbers designate the position drawn in each group. All matches shall be played in accordance with the AFC competition's calendar, and the match schedule will be determined by the AFC after the draw. Draw principles, seeding and pot allocation. As determined by the AFC Women's Football Committee, seedings for the draw shall be updated based on the latest FIFA ranking available prior to the draw. Consequently, participating teams are seeded into 5 pots based on the latest FIFA Women's World Ranking as of March 2025. Hosts pot. At the beginning of the draw, the host associations will separately be allocated to an additional hosts pot to ensure they are drawn into different groups. The host associations shall be drawn into each group in accordance with their seeding as per their seeding and pot allocation principles. Draw procedures. 34 participating teams are divided into 5 pots as per the seeding and pot allocation principle, with 1 additional host spot to be utilized for the draw. At the beginning of the draw, The host associations will be placed into the host's pot to ensure they are drawn into different groups. The host associations will be identified by different colored balls from the other balls within each pot. The draw will be conducted in accordance with the following sequence. The draw will commence with the host's pot, followed by the order of pot 5, pot 4, pot 3, pot 2, and pot 1 to ensure that the highest seeded teams are drawn last. Each pot will be completely emptied before moving on to the next pot. Participating teams from the host's pot will be drawn into the respective positions of each group in alphabetical order and in accordance with their seeding. For example, if a participating team initially seeded into pot 2 is drawn, it will be placed into position 2 of the respective group. The participating teams from pot 5 will be drawn into position 5 of groups A and B in alphabetical order. Subsequently, participating teams from pot 4 will be drawn into position 4 of the first possible group in alphabetical order. The same procedures shall apply for the remaining participating teams in pot 3, pot 2, and pot 1. This shall conclude the draw for the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers.
Now that we're clear on how the draw will unfold, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our draw conductor, the AFC Head of Competition Strategy, Ms. Jessie Dai. Welcome, Jessie. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being with us for the draw ceremony of the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers. 4 teams have already confirmed their places in the finals. The host, Australia, will be joined by the defending champion, China PR, alongside with runners-up, Korea Republic, and the third-place team, Japan, from the 2022 edition. For this edition, we have a record of 38 entries, and with 34 teams here, will be playing in the qualifiers. Also, we have 7 debutants that we will name them during the draw process. So now let us find out the pathway for the remaining teams vying to join the final cast next year. First step, as already explained in the draw mechanism, as you can see, we have a different colored ball in some of the pots. Those are the host for the groups, and we will take them into their host pot. In pot 1, we have Thailand, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, and Myanmar. And in pot 2, by the seeding, we have Jordan and Indonesia. In pot 3, we have one host, Cambodia. And in pot 4 will be Tajikistan. So now the hosts are in place. We will start from the host pot. First team drawn to be the host of Group A. Jordan. Jordan will be hosting Group A. They are also the host of the final competition in 2018. And next, this team will be hosting Group B, and we have Thailand. Thailand is a strong side from Southeast Asia, and they will be aiming for their consecutive 10th appearance in the final competition. Thailand's best finish dated back to 1983, which they clinched the champion of this tournament. Next host going to Group C, Myanmar. Myanmar will be aiming for their second appearance in the finals in a row, and this will be their 7th qualifiers campaign in this competition. Indonesia to host Group D. Indonesia has qualified to the final competition in 2022 as well, and this will be their 3rd time trying in the qualifiers and aiming for a 2nd time appearance in the final competition. Best finishing of Indonesia dated back to 1977 and 1986, which they finished as 4th place in the competition. Vietnam for Group E as the host. Alongside Thailand, Vietnam is also strong from the Southeast Asia, aiming for their 10 times in the finals in a row. Vietnam's best finishing was 6th place in 2014 of the same competition. Uzbekistan will be hosting Group F. Uzbekistan last appearance in the final competition is 2003, which we didn't have qualifiers at that time, and they will be attempt for a 6th time for their finals appearance. Now we have 2 teams remaining to be host of Group G and H. Cambodia. Cambodia is one of the debutants in this competition, and they are also very proactive to become the host of one of the groups in the qualifiers. Last team for Group H. Tajikistan. 3rd time participation, and they have never qualified to the final competition. This time they will host Group H, and we will see how they will perform. Now we have found the host for each group. We will fill in other positions starting from pot 5. These teams will be drawn into groups A and B as position 5. So for Group A5, Bhutan. Also one of the debutants for this competition. Bhutan recently started their women's team, and they have participated in SAF Women's Championship. In 2022, they reached the semi-finals in SAF Women's Championship. The next one for position 5 in Group B. Iraq. It will be Iraq's 2nd time participation in AFC Women's Asian Cup, and they will be aiming for a 1st ever goal or points in the qualifiers. Iraq B5. Moving on to pot 4, now we have 7 vacant positions for position 4, as Tajikistan has occupied Group H4 as the host. Singapore has been actively participating in the AFC women's competition and has performed well in 1970s, 1980s. Their best finish in the competition was in 1977 as the third place team. Next for Group B. Timor-Leste, a debutant of the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Next for Group C. Turkmenistan. Also first time participation in this competition, and Turkmenistan have also recently started and participated in their regional women's championship in 2022 as the first place team there. Turkmenistan Group C4 will be joining Myanmar. For Group D4, we have Pakistan. Also first time participation, and they will be traveling to Indonesia for the qualifiers campaign. Next for Group E, we have Maldives for Group E4. Maldives have participated several times, and this will be their fourth time in the qualifiers. They have never qualified to the finals, and they will be aiming for a first goal or points in the competition. Next for Group F, Sri Lanka, one of the 7 debutants, and Sri Lanka has been prepared their women's team in their regional SAF Women's Championship. They've reached semi-finals in the SAF Women's Championship 3 times in 2012, 14, and 19. Sri Lanka goes to F4. Last team to fill G4. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia recently started women's team, and their first ever international match was in 2022. Also, first time participation in the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Now moving on to pot 3. Similarly, we have 7 vacancies for pot 3, as Cambodia was drawn earlier as the host for Group G. For Group A3, the first team from pot 3. Lebanon. Lebanon has participated 2 times, and this will be their 3rd time attempting to the final competition from the qualifiers. Mongolia for B3. Second time participation, Mongolia made their debut in 2022 edition. Bangladesh for C3. Yes. Also, third time participation in the qualifiers, and they are also attempting for their first goal or points in this competition. Back in SAF Women's Championship, Bangladesh has won 2 times in 2022 and 2024. We continue for Group D. Kyrgyz Republic. Third time participation, and also recently active in women's competitions. In 2022, they played in the CAFA Women's Championship, reached 3rd place. United Arab Emirates for Group E. Also third time participation in the AFC Women's Asian Cup, but back in West Asia region, they have played in several WAF Women's Championship, and they were 2 times winner in 2010 and 2011. Next for Group F. Laos. Laos made their debut in 2022, and this will be their 2nd time participation in the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Skipping Group G now for the last group, H. Palestine. Palestine has been playing in this competition for several times, and this will be their 5th qualifiers campaign. Back in 2014, Palestine played in the West Asia Women's Football Championship and as the runner-up of that tournament. Now we have emptied pot 3, continue with pot 2 for the remaining 6 slots for position 2 of 6 groups. First team will be going to B2. We have India. India was the host of the 2022, which is the last edition. And back in 1980s, India has performed well. Bahrain. Bahrain will be 4th time participation in this competition. Previously, they have never reached the final competition from the qualifiers. And Group D, we have Indonesia in position 2, now for Group E. Guam. Guam has been actively participating in the competition, and they're still aiming for their first qualification from the qualifiers to the finals. Nepal for Group F2. This will be Nepal's 2nd time in the qualifiers, although they have participated several times before 2006 when we introduced the qualifiers to this competition. Group G2, we have Hong Kong, China. Hong Kong, China has played for more than 10 times in the AFC Women's Asian Cup, but since we introduced the qualifiers, they have not reached the final competition. However, back in the 80s, Hong Kong, China was a strong team, and their best finishing was 3rd place in the 1980. Last team will be H2. Malaysia. Malaysia was also quite strong back in the 1980s, 1990s when Southeast Asia teams are the pioneer in the women's football, and they're aiming for a qualification to the final competition. Best finishing was 1983 as 3rd place team of the competition. Last but not least, we move on to Pot 1, which we have remaining 4 teams as we have the most hosts from Pot 1 drawn earlier. First team for Group A1. Islamic Republic of Iran. They will be aiming for a 2nd consecutive qualification from the qualifiers to the finals. Next for Group D, position 1. Chinese Taipei. Chinese Taipei have been actively participating in the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Their best finishing was the champion in 1977, 1980, and 1981. Now it will be their attempting for qualification to the finals in the 2nd executive time. Remaining 2 groups for position 1. Philippines. Philippines has been growing in women's football in recent years, and they are aiming for a 3rd time appearance in the finals in a row. In 2022, they reached the semifinals, which was their best result in the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Last team of the day for Group H1. DPR Korea. Unfortunately, DPR Korea missed the last 2 editions in 2018 and 2022, but they have been a strong team in this competition as the champion in 2001, 2003, and 2008. Now they will start from the qualifiers. That concludes today's draw for the qualifiers of the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026. Thank you very much for your attention. We wish all the participating teams the best of luck. Now back to you, Alex.
Thank you, Jessie. And there you have it, everyone. The groups for the AFC Women's Asian Cup Australia 2026 qualifiers have now been set. Allow me to quickly recap the draw results. As mentioned before, all hosts are highlighted in yellow. In Group A, we have Islamic Republic of Iran, Jordan, Lebanon, Singapore, and Bhutan. In Group B, Thailand, India, Mongolia, Timor-Leste, and Iraq. In Group C, we have Myanmar, Bahrain, Bangladesh, and Turkmenistan. Following that, Group D, Chinese Taipei, Indonesia, Kyrgyz Republic, and Pakistan. In Group E, we have Vietnam, Guam, United Arab Emirates, and Maldives. In Group F, Uzbekistan, Nepal, Laos, and Sri Lanka. Group G, we have Philippines, Hong Kong, China, Cambodia, and Saudi Arabia. And finally, in Group H, we have DPR Korea, Malaysia, Palestine and Tajikistan. So that concludes today's draw for the qualifiers, which will